Greetings, fellow action figure connoisseurs, and welcome to another episode of Digital Caveman Presents G.I. Joe Tuesday. I, as always, am your host, the Digital Caveman, and today I will be presenting you with the G.I. Joe Classified Series, Cobra, Tele-Viper, and Cobra Flight Pod Trouble Bubble 2-pack. Let's get into it! Let's begin our troublesome, bubbly flight with a look at the packaging. And here we have on the top G.I. Joe Classified Series, and the G.I. Joe and the stripes here are embossed into the box. Classified Series, not so much. Then on the front, we have some nice photograph product. Well, I don't know if it's really product shots, but nice photograph at least. And then here, most likely digital renders of the stuff, and then we have some Tele-Viper artwork, G.I. Joe Classified Series, and again the G.I. Joe and the stripes are embossed, but nothing else. Cobra, Tele-Viper, and Cobra Flight Pod Trouble Bubble. And I hate the fact that they spelled it this way, and it may have, you know, throwbacks to a comic or a cartoon or something that they spell it this way, but please spell things correctly. That's just me. It bothers me. Warning, don't stick things in your pie hole that do not belong there. Foreign up, Hasbro print. On the bottom, small fine legalese made in China print, symbols I'm not going to learn, and a barcode. Then on this side, we have that nice artwork of the Tele-Viper, G.I. Joe Classified Series number 79. On the opposite side, he's Cobra. And then the artwork again, number 79. And here is the QR code that takes you to his file card. So if you want to scan that and check out his stats, there it is. But if you don't want to scan it, there's his stats right there. But they're really small. And finally, on the back, he's number 79. He's Cobra. Cobra, Tele-Viper, and Flight Pod, Trouble Bubble. And then nice digital renders of all the stuff. He's 6.3 inches tall, or 161 millimeters. The Flight Pod is 5.8 inches tall, or 148 millimeters. And again, there is the stats. Attention! Don't stick things in your French pie hole. Warning, attention, Octoon! Don't stick things in any other language pie hole that do not belong there. And don't give it to babies. And then parents, GIJoe.com! Hasbro print. That, my friends, is a look at our packaging. Let's take a look at the figure and the vehicle and the accessories. And as you can see here, the Trouble Bubble is some assembly required. So there's that. Here we have handy dandy tweezers. Let's take a look at Tele-Viper's accessories. First, we'll start off with the extra heads. And here's one that is fully masked up. And I have to say, that's pretty cool looking. Then next up we have the other alternate head, which looks to be the same exact head, just with a different color for the face. Or at least the face that's showing. So still pretty cool, even though it's the same one that's on there, just a different color. Same sneer and everything. It looks like, to me at least. And here's his gun. Very, very reminiscent of a Real American Hero version. And it even comes with the cord that plugs into the backpack. Although I do like this cord a little bit better than the original cord. And this may even be the same cord that came with Mindbender for some of his stuff. I don't have him sitting right here as I'm filming this. I just thought of that, as a matter of fact, so it could be that same hose. And then here is his backpack. It's got a few little paint apps here on the back of it. And other than that, just nice molded details. It's got some antenna on here. It's got a peg for the gun. And the post that plugs into his back. And it's even, you know, on the side you're really not going to see a whole lot. It's got some details. And what is that to set up? No, it's not. I thought maybe there was a secret part that opened, but it doesn't. No openings. Now let's take a look at the figure itself again. There's the alternate head. No, I take it back. They're mirrored from each other, I do believe. It may be a different sculpt. The nose may be a little different. It's hard to tell. But at least the sneers are reversed. So not exactly the same with a different coat of paint. I was wrong. I admit it freely and of my own volition. And again, everything I said about the other two heads, it holds true for this one, except again, the Caucasian look of the figure instead. And this is the head that comes on him out of the box. And this really reminds me, you know, the original figure had this complexion, so that's why it reminds me of that. But this, they did change, because the original figure had his sleeves rolled up, but he had bare arms. Except for, I can't remember if he had this, the original had this or not. I don't think he did, but he had bare arms. But I understand, because they put, you know, there's two different ethnicities, plus that completely covered head. I understand why they gave him a black bodysuit under there, so that it works all the way around. So, and even under, you know, right here. So, that's cool. That's a nice update to the figure. Not a whole lot of paint really going on past the head. You got the nice silver and this and the teeth, and then the black here. I think it's molded in this color. I could be wrong though. Wouldn't be the first time, even in this review. So on his arm here, he's got that nice Cobra Tampo just on one side. Got some nice paint apps in here and around here. So most of this guy is molded in color, and that's fine. It works for this figure. Well, let's take a look at, well, on the back, and it's pretty much the same on the back as far as the paint apps go. Now let's take a look at his articulation. He can look up that high, and the neck is on a ball joint at the bottom, and then it's got a dumbbell in the neck up to the head, I believe is how they put it together. But he looks up that far. He looks down that far. He's got some chicken neck. He's got some waggle. He can do the full exorcist at the shoulder, 360-degree rotation. He does have butterfly back that far, forward that far. And he can raise his arm up that high, which I'm going to call approximately 90 degrees. Might be a little better. There we go, when you get things lined up properly. So way past 90 on that. And then he has a cut here at the upper bicep for another 360-degree rotation. Double hinged pinless elbow. And it gives you that much bend. Wrist, 360-degree rotation on in and out hinge. And on the other hand is in and out hinge as well. Now, I forgot to take a look. He does have some nice little tampos or something. Stickers. Tampos. It's probably tampos. On his wrist readout here. Now, I'm sure there's a cut here where the chest and the abdomen meet. that gives some stuff, and then there's a ball joint, or yeah, I think it's a ball joint here at the waist, and in conjunction with the overlay, it's not going to get as much as it would if it didn't have the overlay. But he can bend back that far, he can bend forward that far, and I heard it click, so it's that classic Hasbro Marvel Legends type ab crunch in there, not the cut. So at the waist, 360 degrees. He can lean left, and he can do left and right. He can do hula. Now at the hips, of course, on that G.I. Joe drop down hinge, he can give you that much of the splits. Kicks forward that far. Backwards about a half a step. Cut at the upper thigh. Gives you 360 degrees of rotation. Double hinge pinless knee. And it gives you that much bend. At the mid shin, at the top of the boot, a boot cut. 360 degree rotation. And at the ankles, let's see, tilts down that far. Tilts up that far, which is just kind of slightly. And then he does have forward facing pin for rocker. Now the way his accessories work is you plug the hose or cord, whatever you want to call it, into the gun. There's a post here on the bottom of his backpack, and it goes right in there. Now when he's not using it, this square post here, you just put the trigger guard through, and then you can post it on his back. You do kind of have to watch out just a little bit, although this overlay doesn't move a whole lot. But get that port lined up. And there we go. That's our look at the Tele-Viper. Now, one other thing, accessory-wise, we'll look at real quick is the accessory box. Tele-Viper and Cobra Flight Pod Trouble Bubble. Again, the misspelled thing. And it does have some nice printed details on here. Nice Cobra logo there. So, there is that. It can be used as a locker of some sort if you wish. Now again, some assembly required on this guy, and we will go through that really quickly, or at least as quick as I can. Here is the weapon, the gun that goes on the bottom, the chin gun, I guess you could call it. It's got a ball port right there, nice molded details in it, and it does have a port right there on the end for blast effects. And then there's another one in the back that I've seen people saying is to plug that in, and when we get things finished, we'll look at that. It is an option. I don't care for it, but it is an option. And other than that, there is really no place to put that mine. So anyway, on the flight pod itself, let's look at that before I stick anything on. It's got some nice paint apps here on the front. It does have some nice molded detail. Well, molded detail throughout. I mean, look at the sections of the seat, the paint apps on the readouts and whatnot, and just all that molded detail in there. The rivets down here on the bottom, the little steering turbine, I guess is what it is. And then we've got some little exhaust ports right here, two ports right here, and a couple of tampos on it, and fuse. Oh my god, there's a fuse back here, and a couple of nice paint apps on here, and then of course a nice flexible seat belt, and it does actually work pretty good. And then on there is a little readout. I'm guessing it's a tampo, but it's a little readout on the handlebar control stuff. And then, you know, we've got this detail. Very, very reminiscent of the original trouble bubble. So anyway, we've got that covered. So what you do with this is just line it up, the port and the ball on here, and just push it till you hear that snap, and then it's on there. And then the jetpack piece here, yeah, he's shot down some Sky Strikers, Cobra. There's the number. Danger, hot exhaust. Only roast your marshmallows there. So nice rivets, just nice details throughout. And I saw this and I immediately thought, look at that. It fits right in there, won't it? But no, it does not. It is just slightly too big. And it might fit in that one, but because of the shape of the mine, it does not. So, and then we've got a little bit of articulation right here to show if you want to steer it. So, and then what you do with that is you got these two posts, and you got these two ports on the back. Just line them up with the hot exhaust pointing down, and just press it in there real good, and there you go, it's in place. Now here we have the missiles. Nice molded detail, molded in color, and tell me that is not classic G.I. Joe, that peg system right there. Holy macaroni. And then it's got a little port here in the back for you can put some of those exhaust pieces in there if you want. So that's pretty cool. And there's two of those. They're exactly the same. Then you have these two pieces, which are part of the pod, and I do not like these. I think I'm just gonna have to glue them in because they do not like to stay in place. But where you put them, you notice that there's a post right here, and then on the sides of it there's this port and then an outline, so you know which side to stick the missile rack thingy on. And I'm gonna get it wrong every single time. There we go. So it just puts in there, but it doesn't really stay in there. And I want to glue them in there, but I'm afraid that if I glue them in there, there'll be some kind of accessory pack maybe later on. Not that they're good at doing that with this line, but maybe. And then of course the missiles, you can see the shape of that classic G.I. Joe peg. And you just kind of line them up and push them on there, and they stay on there pretty well. It's just when you go to take them off, not so great. So there's that. Let's set it out of the way over here for a minute, and we'll take a look at the mine itself. It does have a panel that comes off, and it has a few little molded details down in there. It's got some arrows pointing to it. It's got some arrows that point down. It's got all kinds of mine activation studs on it. It's got this, and I still haven't figured out what that's for. And then there's a port in the bottom of it where you could put some of those blast effects for exhaust. And other than that, here's the panel. It says caution, highly explosive, handle with care, and to remove, press latch release. So don't just pry it off like I do. No, that's literally what you have to do with it, is pry it off. But you can see there's a little post right here, there's a port right here, and then it just kind of, once you get that lined up, you get these other two lined up, if you can. It doesn't want to do now. And then just push it into place and it stays in there. And again, it's a nice little throwback to the original. Now the original flight pod had a much bigger mine that actually pegged into the seat where you would normally put a pilot, so that, you know, you put this mine in it and program it to go wherever and then explode. But not so on this. And then it's got these two little I'm not sure what that's for. Maybe it's just decoration. I'm going to say it's just for decoration because that's really all it can do. Now, as far as storage for this, you can port it in right there, which while you're flying around is fine, but it doesn't really work so well when you're trying to land. Maybe, I don't know. That's okay, I suppose. But I don't like the way that looks. I really wish that port right there was the one. And I may try to fix it or do that. See, it doesn't even want to stay in there. And as far as the trouble bubble goes, you know, this piece moves up and down. I don't know that I showed that before, but you can do it like that. This piece does open up. Now mine has a little bit of an issue. When you go to close it back up, this side goes into place like it's supposed to. This side will not. It's almost like this post here, peg here, does not. It's too big. So anyway, there's all that, and how all this works together is you get the Tele-Viper, or whoever you want to put in it. You take their accessory backpack off. Now on the original one, of course, there was a post in the seat that you would peg the figure onto on his backpack thing, but this one doesn't have that. Instead, it has seatbelts. The original did not have seatbelts. So anyway, you want to bend your guy's knees, put his arms up a little bit, then lift the seatbelt up and push the lower section down, and then put the straps over his head. And then you'll notice right here there's a port in the middle of that, and on this bottom side of the strap there is the mushroom post, and there went the missile. But not the missile, the whole assembly for the missile. But anyway, you line the peg and the post up, and then you just press it a couple of times. Maybe it'll go in and fiddle with it a little bit. But there it goes. Eventually it will. And as you can see, it's not super tight. And I think that's so it can accommodate maybe a bigger figure. Maybe Roblox steals a trouble bubble. But then you just put his hands on the handlebars, and it works really well with these trigger fingers because they will go on the outside of the, I guess it's a brake bar. If it was a motorcycle, that's what it would be, or a bicycle. So that's how he fits on there. And again, as you can see, what fell out was this piece. And then just trying to kind of pose the guy out a little bit. Close your bubble as best you can. And one thing I forgot to mention, it's got this nice tampo on the bubble here, like it's a heads-up display. So that's pretty cool. And then, so awesome. Another thing that would have been really, really awesome is this piece right here looks like it could slide off. And if they had actually done that so you could store some crap in there, like the mine, you know, that would have worked really well, in my opinion. But, you know, that's just my opinion. Your mileage, of course, may vary. But that, my friends, is a look at the figure, vehicle, and accessories and assembly. It's time for my favorite part of a review, comparisons. And here we have several G.I. Joe Classified Series vehicles with figure pack-ins, G.I. Joe Classified Series Tele-Viper and Flight Pod, the G.I. Joe Classified Series Target exclusive Cobra Island Breaker and Ram Cycle, and the G.I. Joe Classified Series Target exclusive Baroness on Cobra Coil. Here's the G.I. Joe Classified Series Tele-Viper and Trouble Bubble, or Flight Pod, however you like it, with a couple of Action Force guys. The Action Force Swarm Sentry from the Special Deployment Series, and the PowerCon 2023 exclusive Swarm Horde Trooper. For our final set of comparisons, here we have the G.I. Joe Classified Series Tele-Viper and Cobra Flight Pod, with, from the Marvel Legends series, making his cameo appearance, Stan the Man Lee. Our final G.I. Joe Classified Series comparison, the Hasbro Pulse exclusive Regal variant Cobra Commander. From Star Wars The Black Series, the Archive Edition 501st Legion Clone Trooper, and for a 7-inch scale comparison, from the Masters of the Universe Masterverse line, the 40th Anniversary He-Man. For final thoughts on the G.I. Joe Classified Series, Cobra Tele-Viper and Cobra Flight Pod, or Trouble Bubble if you prefer, let's start out with, we'll start with the things I didn't like, or that I had issue with. Now, on one side of the dome for my Trouble Bubble, I did have to shave the side off of the peg just a little bit, or the tab just a little bit, to get it to fit properly. So it was too big to fit into the slot. So that got taken care of. Storage for the mine is, you know, you plug one of the spikes into the back of the gun, and I honestly don't know if that is what they intended, or if somebody just figured out that it fits there. And I just don't like, you. If it was in flight, that would be fine, but in a grounded position, it does not work for me. And there was a perfect place to put it, in right here, but it's just too small. The port is too small for the mine to fit in it, and that really irks me. And then there's the fact of, there could have been a storage compartment inside of the Trouble Bubble with this section here that it's attached to, and around here on the back. It looks like it could have been made to slide out, and then you'd have had storage in there behind the seat, where you could have stored the mine, or you could have stored the backpack and gun while he was, you know, flying around or whatever. Or even stick the extra heads in there if you wanted to. But alas, that was not the case. Now, everything else I like about this. I like the tampo on the bubble. I like the deco on the flight pod. The Tele-Viper is very classically inspired. The only major difference between this guy and the Real American Hero, you know, other than the size, of course, is that, you know, his arms are covered with that black bodysuit in the Classified Series, and the original figure, he had bare arms and hands, and this guy's wearing, you know, a bodysuit and gloves. And that's fine. I understand why they did that, so that they could use, you know, the different ethnicities for the heads. And that's, you know, it is what it is, and that's fine, and I don't have any issue with that. Make your Tele-Viper whatever you want, or make it just like all sealed up like this head, and that's fine. I like the Tele-Viper's weapon and backpack, and the fact that, you know, it does still use the hose to connect it together. And I do believe that that's the same hose that Dr. Mindbender uses on some stuff. So That's cool. Interesting reuse. But the deco, the colors, the design of the Trouble Bubble in itself is super classic to me. I really, really like it. And, you know, I just have to find a good way to just put this in my display. I would like to make it fly, but it's very, very difficult to get it on a flight stand, stable and proper. And I do believe Can of Beams is gonna make a thing for it. So be on the lookout for that if you're looking for some type of flight stand adapter for the Trouble Bubble. That would probably be the place to go, because he does some pretty good work. Well, that does it for the review. I hope that you enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it. Only support from viewers like you make this programming possible. Each view does count, and I do appreciate each and every single view that I receive. Thank you, and thank you so very, very much for supporting this channel through viewing. Comment below, like, share, subscribe if you'd like to see more reviews or just help the channel out further. Or both, that's even better. And don't forget to ding that bell so that in the future you will be notified as my new content becomes available. That's a wrap, folks. I'll see you next time.